Hey, what's up, guys? This is Brian from Whisper Status 74. Today we are doing a 4K Blu-ray review of The Shining. I understand the words are going to be backwards as this is the front part of my camera. I don't do many 4K Blu-ray reviews on this channel for a few reasons. One is copyright on YouTube makes it hard for me to show you any part of the film. Even stills can be taken down. And simply as I don't buy as many 4K Blu-rays as I used to, simply because double dipping was one of the biggest reasons I ever purchased the next level of formats. And I didn't find 4K to always be that big a jump over many of the Blu-rays that I currently own. This one, The Shining, is not one of them. This is a must-buy. This will be a short review. It's always difficult when buying these older Blu-rays, and the reviews are very hard to trust. 4K Blu-ray, Bluray.com is one of my favorite websites, and we disagree a lot with a lot of these older films. They'll praise older films such as The Godfather on Blu-ray and give that their top review, and a lot of us would find that grain structure to be way too noisy to be pleasant. Older films like this, it's always difficult to discern what looks good to our eyes as individuals and what is also accurate as far as the filmic way it was shot. The Shining is one of these films. Now, in a handful of Blu-rays that I currently own, where it falls right in line with is 2001, Blade Runner, and Alien. It is a step above two other Stephen King films, which would be Pet Sematary and Christine. Now, what I mean by that is Christine, for instance, was a very good transfer, a good deal better than the Blu-ray. Pet Sematary was light years better. But that was primarily on how those films were filmed. They weren't necessarily high-budget films. The Shining is Stanley Kubrick's film. It is legendary. It was a big deal upon release. He is a legendary director. The cast is amazing. The film itself is amazing. I personally prefer the book, but this isn't a movie review. It is a 4K Blu-ray review. So, when purchasing films like this, Aliens, 2001, Jaws, I'm going to buy them anyway. So I'll get that out of the way right away. Also, films from this era, I'm a huge fan of that slow burn, that realistic casting. So I wouldn't do a video on it if I didn't think it was a must-buy. Now, get it out of the way in the beginning. Grain haters, you're not going to love it, simply because any film from this era is going to have film grain. This is on 35 millimeter. It transitions over to 4K Blu-ray. Amazing. It is beautiful. However, it is soft. You are going to see grain. It's undeniable, especially outdoor shots of any film of that era. Panning shots, the snowy shots, anything outdoor is going to be a little bit soft and a little bit grainy. However, the interiors are jaw-dropping. I mean, the interiors, their clothing, the face. And in films like this, where the atmosphere, the Overlook Hotel itself, each room, every wall, water coolers in the corner, the light switches, that's what these formats are all about. Are things that in previous versions perhaps were blurry and we didn't spend all that much time on them. Now I spend my time looking at those details, appreciating those details. And in this film, it's like seeing it for the first time for me. I can see the Overlook with such a great deal amount of clarity that wasn't visible on the Blu-ray or the HD-DVD that I owned. Especially the close-ups. A lot of these older films, the close-ups still have a good amount of noise in the image. They are crystal clear here, to the point where if you wanted to put on your contrast enhancers or dynamic contrast of your displays on any display that you have, you actually could do that with interior shots and not have it be a grain fest, which is saying a lot, considering a lot of these films, a lot of that processing many of you like, and I do like some of it as well, motion and dynamic contrast, you can't implement here. It is that good that it can handle it. Now, the outdoor shots, as I mentioned before, are soft, as they should be. They are, they were always soft even back then. 35 millimeter, it is phenomenal. I am really, really happy with it. It takes you back to wanting to own something like this. Streaming cannot show you this. You need the lack of compression. Now, the audio has also been enhanced. Before I get into that, the aspect ratio is full screen. You can read the Bluray.com review. They do talk about there being some issues with it feeling zoomed in. I do not feel that way. Also, it's missing the mono mix, the 2-channel mix. I love the sound. It is much louder. The music is louder, but the music plays a greater part than it did for me in the Blu-ray. Especially pumped up. There is some spatial awareness. It's not a surround sound type film, but the music is really another character in this film. They do not make films like this anymore. The cast isn't pretty. No one is beautiful. It is a real lived in look to the cast, to the interiors. Everything looks lived in and old, and it's more evident on this 4K Blu-ray. They don't have that audio track on here. It's just the DTS HD compressed version, and the aspect ratio is only 1. I appreciate it being in full screen, especially with older films. It really gives you that theatrical look, especially if there is grain. Grain haters that hate any kind of grain, this is not for you. However, even grain that is there to be filmic and not distracting, this film has that. It is soft interiors. It's barely noticeable unless you're farther back. Outdoor is soft. Interior face, clear. Really, really beautiful. If you love this film, it's a must-buy. If you casually like this film, it's a must-buy. For everyone other than the most opposed to grain, modern digital fans, this is a must-buy. This is my quick review of the 4K Blu-ray review of The Shining, one of my favorite movies of all time, though I appreciate the book more. This is fantastic. Fantastic transfer. I will say this, though, before I leave. With the clarity of the imagery and of the facial expressions, it is amazing how they really played off Jack Torrance in this film to be maniacal kind of from the start. He's actually, you can see how annoyed he is with his eyebrows and the way he looks and how, how he breathes in. That makes it more evident. We'll do a Shining review on the film at some point if you want it. But the clarity of these formats, they change your perception of the film. That's what makes them so great. That's what makes home theater so amazing. Check out the 4K Blu-ray version of The Shining. Highly recommended. To me, it is a must-buy. I think it's phenomenal. And any Stanley Kubrick fan, you have to have this one. All right, guys. Thank you as always. That is my review of The Shining. Take care.